Welcome back to Hytale Spins. How are you doing? I hope you're having a great day. In today's video, we're going to talk about how Hytale expectations have completely changed and fans are not happy. But before we begin with today's topic, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notifications so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. I must clarify that what was shown in the 2018 trailer was in fact a playable game. Regardless of their current launch plans, Hytale was originally scheduled to launch a little earlier than we now know. The best parts of the trailer are merely the prettiest parts of the game that they can show, which means that just because the trailer looks great does not necessarily mean that the game is particularly complete. However, this was created at a time when their scope was relatively reasonable and their release ideas weren't that far off. So Hytale from the 2018 trailer was relatively close to what they deemed playable at the time. This is significant because it indicates that whatever the game was back then, it was undeniably a partially functional game and not merely an unfinished project. Okay, Hytale 2018 is a game, but how can I demonstrate that it is distinct from Hytale 2023? On a purely technical level, the game states are probably incomparable. On the one hand, this can be attributed to the fact that by the time the game is released, it will have been in development for nearly 5 years. With new developers, a different scope, and different development practices. Beyond that, however, we know that they are now developing the game for multiple platforms. And they have specifically mentioned that this will require significant engine modifications. This is likely one of the most substantial and fundamental alterations you can make to the game. Given that this is being done to ensure platform compatibility, these modifications will not be minor. Especially given that they specifically stated that this would be a time-consuming task. On the most technical level, therefore, these two versions of Hytale are not the same game. However, this may not be enough to convince you. Consider Minecraft as an example. It's a game that's available on multiple platforms, and despite their minor differences, people don't really consider them to be entirely different games, right? What would differentiate Hytale? I suppose you're right that the game's underlying technology has little effect on the player. However, do you know what affects the player? Gameplay is likely. You can bet that the gameplay has changed significantly since the game's initial release. First into battle, interestingly, we have never actually been told what the main gameplay loop entails. But it's likely that whatever you're trying to accomplish will require some light persuasion at some point. So what has changed that we are aware of? Well, for both PvE and PvP, practically everything. On a PvE side of things, enemies no longer use the revolutionary and insane technique known as standing and hitting. Two who are truly competing and capable of giving players a run for their money. Now, I'm certain that not every dollar store skeleton will have throwable premium hands, but that goes both ways. Now, this is a very significant distinction, as the difference between a basic and a skilled NPC completely alters how encounters must be played. In the former fights, positioning and Snapchat play a much larger role than immediate skill. Then there's the absolute rabbit hole, which would be a massive encounter with truly capable foes. In a room filled with skeletons, this is actually the only exhibit. Imagine for a moment if they all played like this. You'd be in for a rough time, and that's just a basic encounter. This doesn't include bandits, soldiers, scarier monsters, or even bosses. And you can't even argue that this is better PvE in terms of development because it's so different from how you play it. And that's just PvE. I haven't even mentioned player violence yet. Obviously, combat is different in both modes, but the difference is how each played is quite substantial. According to my knowledge, the only real PvP that exists is a tiny clip in the 2018 trailer that doesn't show much. However, what you can see is significantly different from what we currently have. Firstly, the new combat system has abilities which are crucial for obvious reasons. What is not obvious, however, is that they add the dynamic of cooldowns to a fight, which makes a significant difference. I'm sure that makes sense because the difference between a guy who can power slam you into the afterlife and the guy who can't do that for 5 seconds is pretty astounding. Not to mention things that they've talked about like stamina, charging up moves, and whatever they decided to add before their release. That's it for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you never miss out on any future content we'll produce for you guys. We're signing off now, but we'll be sure to catch you all in the next one.